Welcome to a football show here live inside the pharmacy here on McFerrin Avenue. Obviously, weather in Nashville, not ideal on this particular Tuesday. Happy New Year to everybody out there. This is Zach Lyons. I am Braden Gall. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. Of course, we've got a lot to discuss today, lots of college football playoff stuff to get to. We'll talk football, actual things on the field. Of course, we all watched the tragedy, of course, in Cincinnati with Damar Hamlin last night. And so we'll have some non-commentary commentary, I think, on that, Zach, just to set the scene, because that's literally the only thing anyone in any news room is talking about right now in this country, sports or otherwise. It's taken over. So we'll have some non-commentary commentary is what I'm going to call it.
I like it.
Peter King had some comments that I think fans are going to be interested in. If you're a Tennessee Titans fan, of course, trying to figure out exactly what's going to happen with Ryan Tannehill. And you are my guy. You're my go-to guy. You're the go-to guy for contract situations, what could or could not happen with this quarterback situation for the Tennessee Titans. You've been very stern on what you think is going to happen. We're starting to see the rumblings, right? Like,
yeah, the rumblings are happening. I'm getting all kinds of rumblings about the Tennessee Titans right now.
I think we're honestly
not just Peter King.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously we're going to, on Thursday, we'll be back on our normal schedule, of course, 1 p.m., and that is when we are going to dive headlong into the Jacksonville matchup on Saturday. Do the Titans have a chance? 6.5-point underdog? So they clearly have a chance. Did Josh Dobbs save the offense? All that great stuff. We have not had a chance to listen to Josh Dobbs talk today yet on Tuesday. So we'll have some reaction to that, and then a preview, of course, coming up on Thursday. We're drinking some, I think, first time in the States beers. Is that
this is
what I heard?
A wheat beer import from Germany. The first, I guess, few weeks it's living in the States, and this is Hopbrau Weiss beer.
I'm drinking some Black Abbey, of course, here locally in Nashville. So pharmacy, always great beer selection, great burger selection, of course. The dogs, the mustard, everything you could ever need in a meal. And when you come in here, you look at this ambiance, you look at these vibes here. You got the soda rail, you got the milkshakes, you got the burgers, you got the dogs, you got everything you need. And guess what? No screens, okay? No screens. Maybe on your phone, I guess. Maybe the digital screens. But nothing to distract the communal experience here at the pharmacy in East Nashville. Also have a location downtown as well. We're also brought to you by our wonderful friends, the Kingston Group. BuildKG.com, of course, is the website. Just call them. Have a conversation with them. Have a conversation with them about your house. Make sure that you just talk to them before you make any big financial decisions. It's not that complicated. It's not that hard. BuildKG.com is a website, Zach. I don't know what else we need to tell people. Pharmacy, Kingston Group, Broadway Sports Media as well. 440 Sports, all the great podcasts, all the great shows. The Insider account, of course, make sure you sign up for that as well. So all kinds of great stuff for both the companies. Support local business here in Nashville, Tennessee. So we are going to talk a lot of football today on the show. Georgia winning the semifinal in what was probably the best semifinal Saturday maybe ever in the history of college football. Stetson Bennett's career.
It's only the 10th one?
2014, so I think it's the ninth year.
The ninth year. So it's easily the best out of the 9 years.
Easily the best set of semifinals. But what does it mean coming up in the championship game? Also, again, we'll have a chance to preview that on Thursday and then again on Monday. Joe Milton finishes off an excellent season by Tennessee with an 11-win year. Bryce Young finishes off an extraordinary career at Alabama. I do think there's one bowl record that fans need to know about. Like, I think fans go on Twitter and argue the wrong way. And I know you're big about providing ammunition to folks.
Yes.
To be smarter.
Right.
And I think you can all be smarter college football fans with one stat.
But also
we'll do that later.
Less bickering.
Less bickering.
Bickering.
So this is an official New Year's intention?
Yeah. No, it's not no bickering. It's less bickering.
Less bickering.
Probably more blocking. I guess you could say it's probably they're going to be more blocking on Twitter, but it's definitely more muting, more blocking, less bickering.
So I am big on I'm not big on New Year's resolutions. I'm big on New Year's intentions, because if you set yourself up for a 100% pass-fail situation, you're setting yourself up psychologically for a bunch of failing. If you just say my New Year's intention is to bicker less, there's no percentage there.
Yeah, they could just be 1%.
As long as you're a little bit less bickery, you're fine. So a lot of actual football, but of course last night when you watch the Buffalo-Cincinnati game, which by the way has massive implications in the AFC playoff picture, 1 seed, 2 seed, 3 seed, all on the line, 2 elite quarterbacks. The whole world was ready for this game. And of course in the first quarter, Damar Hamlin goes down with the crazy hit right to his chest, and you guys kind of know all the facts. And I think, I had a tough time figuring out what I wanted to say, because I don't really feel like I need to say anything about the injury or the scheduling or what the NFL did or didn't do. Like, that's for really smart people to figure out. But I do feel obligated to say something about the coverage of it all, because that's what we do and cover the media to some extent. And I thought Joe Buck, if you don't like Joe Buck, Plenty of people don't. A lot of people have opinions about Joe Buck. I don't think you can argue that anyone could have done it better than he did last night. I think the way he and Troy Aikman handled telling the story, giving you the information, all the stuff you needed to know, trying to give you as much updates from what was going on in real time in the stadium as possible, as best they could. No opinion, no hot takes, none of that garbage. I thought that broadcast crew did a really good job covering that really difficult situation.
I thought ESPN did a good job. Not just them
true.
two. I thought ESPN all the way from Susie Colbert to Lisa Salters to Booger McFarland, Adam Schefter,
awesome.
Scott Van Pelt, Ryan Clark, covering the after thing. I think everybody did a good job on ESPN. I did not watch ESPN today, so I don't know if they ruined it all. But I will say that the people that covered it last night did a excellent job, and I will leave it at this about people's opinions. I don't need to hear them.
Yeah, and nor do you need to. It's okay to have one.
Keep it to yourself.
Just like at your house.
If you have to delete a tweet, and I know at least 2 accounts that did.
A lot more than that.
Yeah, but I at least know 2 people that did that probably are watching or listening to this show.
It's okay.
You don't have to tweet everything, and some of you guys, I've seen people like tweet what everybody else is saying as far as a health update, and then they tag the person that originally tweeted it, but it's their own tweet, so they're not quote tweeting or retweeting it. Just hit the retweet button. Some of you are not news breakers, so quit acting like you are.
Yeah, look, speculation, not necessarily, definitely not by ESPN in the moment.
Yeah.
You don't have to do. You definitely should not do that. And I say this, and this is not I'm not trying to compare this situation to like Deshaun Watson or domestic assault, but a lot of times we do content around really tough situations. And when you and I eventually this summer got to the point where it's like, I'm looking at you going like, hey, unless you're a lawyer or unless you were in the room, I don't really care about your opinion about Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So unless you're a medical professional or work for the NFL front office in terms of scheduling, which is now what they have to figure out with this game, I kind of don't really need your opinion on this one. Like, I respect your opinion.
Yeah.
But it's also okay to just sort of like, my wife and I sat and watched that, didn't talk a whole lot. And we're just sitting there watching it, and I'm going, I can't believe this. This is unprecedented, blah, 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 blah. The whole exact same way everybody else is feeling. But she looked at me and she goes, at the end of it, she goes, you've always said Joe Buck you don't like him, but he's really, really good at his job. And I was like,
one of the best. My stance was I've gotten to a point where I'm running this Football and Other Efforts account. If this would have been the Zach of 5 years ago, I definitely would have had some take. But I've learned and matured over the years that you don't have to have a take out on every little topic. Yeah. And what I did last night was retweet a few tweets that either echoed my sentiment or was given information I did not know. Like, I think that a worthy thing to do instead of worrying about the scheduling issue of it all. Like, my big thing is that if you say, well, I really hope he's okay, I believe that you think that, but then if you turn around and just kind of undercut that with a tweet,
you're making it about you.
You're making it about you.
Yeah.
So I just retweeted people. I think the best one that I thought was the most informative for people that may not know, because the first thing I thought of when I saw him get up, and you see the overhead view, get up, and then he falls, and you could tell it was a heart attack or a cardiac arrest, I guess is the proper term. It reminded me, I know people are going to think I'm crazy, but it reminded me of this thing in wrestling where Sheamus, who is a Nashville native, by the way, or not native, but he's now Nashville's favorite wrestling son, was wrestling Jerry Lawler. And this is, of course, Jerry Lawler of like 60, 70 years old, however old he is. And he does this move where he goes over the chest from behind and just pounds away, right? It's one of the few moves that actually, causes a lot of pain on initial impact, that you can't really brace for. Right. And it gave him a cardiac arrest. And Jerry Lawler tweeted out about it, and I thought it was really good information for people to have. I think the most important information, and obviously it worked, and if you shared it or donated to it, was his charity. I mean, last I checked, it was over $3.29 million, and it hadn't even reached its 2,500, I don't think, or something insane. Well, lets you know that there's still a lot of good people out in the world. Maybe there's only very few rich good people out in the world, but I don't know. There's at least good people out in the world.
It's funny. Like, we talk a lot about Twitter, like just you and I in general. I'm obsessed with it. It's my drug of choice. And there are moments, like, I believe when you see like these stories that happen in our society that are like, whether it's a school shooting or a big news story or something like that, like when youth or a celebrity passes away, again, it doesn't have to be that intense, but you don't have to say the thing to make yourself part of the story. Like, you can just sit back. Now, I will say, since we talk so much about Twitter and you and I do it a lot, like Twitter was overwhelmingly positive and compassionate. Like last night when it was happening, there were a few rare bad apples that you're just going like, you guys are just looking for attention, and I hate that part of this world, but that's the world we live in. But I thought largely it was a reminder that people are pretty good, that we care about each other, that when you watch those NFL players get together in those moments, that they all become people real fast and less competitors. And so I think it's a reminder that we are very good people in general, and the loudest vocal minority on Twitter doesn't necessarily represent all of us. So I don't have a
vocal minority, loud, dumb, and wrong.
Loud, dumb,
That's
and wrong.
their party motto.
Loud, dumb, and wrong. Zach, Braden here, of course. Listen, it's the biggest story in the entire country. Every single non-sports news program today was leading with this story, so I felt like we needed to have something to say. But our something is that you don't always have to have something to say, and that I thought.
And the irony of us having to do this segment is not lost on me, because I kind of am doing this segment in protest just because but it's news.
You see how it's coming out both sides of my mouth? Like here the words are over here and the words are over here.
The thing is that it's newsworthy, but I hate that it's newsworthy because I hate that the event that's surrounded it, and then you turn it into, well, you gotta grieve, or you got to do it this way. It's not my thing. But I know it's newsworthy.
No, it's okay. We'll move on. But no updates as of the time of taping. If there was, we would give them to you. That's the really only piece of news you really need to have is an update from the family. The NFL will make a decision. That's a decision.
I think once they have the news cleared, the news out of the hospital cleared, I think that's when you'll see any information. Which I think is it's not only it's just the right move. Well, it's the move that puts the focus where it needs to be, and the focus needs to be on positive vibes being sent to someone that needs positive vibes.
I also don't think it is inappropriate in the sports content world to pivot and have the next conversation quickly, very shortly, without disrespect to the family or Hamlin and what he's going through and anything. Like, of course, we all are worried about him, but there is a very complicated decision that has to be made about the 1 seed getting a bye week in the AFC playoffs. Like, that's a very important thing that the NFL has to come up with. And I don't think it's callous to say, hey, what do you like? I don't think it should be a tie because that gives it to Kansas City or whatever.
I think that no matter what the decision is, it's not going to make everyone happy. And I think that's something everybody needs to keep in mind, is that it's whatever it may be is not going to keep everything happy. If you want to have that discussion, I'm okay with that discussion. You know, if you're someone that's on Twitter or doing this job, I'm okay with that discussion. 24 hours later, 48. I prefer 48 hours later myself because it is such a critical thing. But I do think that having it like right as it goes on, that your first thing is, especially if you're a Titans centric, and not necessarily that we are, because we're all about football, but there are Titan centric accounts that went in straight into playoffs. I'm like, why? The Titans. This does not factor into the Titans. It's not relevant to what your product is supposed to be and your brand is supposed to be.
If you win, you're going to host the Chargers. If you lose on Saturday, you get like the 10th pick in the draft?
The best case scenario is 9th pick if my math is correct and everything.
So that is sort of the playoff picture for the Titans and Titans fans. I mean, is there intrigue with with New England, because that game is obviously against Buffalo?
Because there is a crazy scenario where both the Titans and Jaguars can still get in, but it requires the Titans to win.
I do love that when you look at the rankings, that the Titans are behind the Jets in the standings, and the Jets have been eliminated.
Yeah,
just one of those random things.
People are already assuming that the Titans are losing the games, because that's what Tankathon is doing. I've noticed this. So Tankathon is what everybody's using to figure out what the draft order is after every game, because it automatically updates.
All right.
And what people are using, and what I'm seeing, is that here's who the Tankathon predicts will lose the wild card round. So they don't even predict that we're going to beat the Jaguars right now. That's why you see the Titans at 11th and not in the wild card round.
All right.
It's pretty interesting.
It is. And again, I don't envy the people making the decision on how to get this game in, because it feels like it does need to happen. But how does it happen? That's, again, you'll see it on Twitter like everybody else when it happens. And so otherwise, it's okay to talk about these things respectfully while also making sure we all know exactly what the focus is and what we're trying to do. So we are going to talk Stetson Bennett, Georgia Bulldogs, Joe Milton, Bryce Young.
I can't wait to have this Stetson Bennett conversation, because I got a good zinger for you.
All right, I'm waiting. There's one statistic that you need to know about bowl records. It's the only one you need to know. We'll give you that one a little bit later on. Of course, this is a football show brought to you by the Kingston Group, buildkg.com, and the pharmacy. Look at this beautiful vibey bar here. My daughter lost her top, like her middle teeth. She can't say the B's anymore. So she's like, Dad, can we have a Vivey night? It's just, I love the way they talk when they have the tooth missing. And I brought her in here. I'm like, we're going to bring you in here to the pharmacy.
So was she trying to say Vibey?
Yes.
Okay. So she considers like a chill, like Netflix and chill is her vibe night.
God, you just.
Well, yeah, I guess maybe I should have said that. Sorry. I guess when she wants to chill and relax, like at a spa day, she calls it vibe day.
Yes. So what it is that my wife hates downlighting.
Okay.
She hates downlighting. She loves, like, she likes the Edison bowls and like the chill lights and the, the calm mood and the nice music. But she doesn't like, my 6-year-old daughter will walk through the house and be like, I'll turn on a light and she'll be like, Dad, you're harshing the vibies. And I'm like, I've created a monster with this child. Or my wife has, I should say.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's hear. You want to hear from? We got quarterback rumblings are already starting to come out. The national media, they have their sources. They talk to people. There's obviously a huge decision looming with the Tennessee Titans and Ryan Tannehill. So I'm going to ask you what people need to know about that.
Okay.
But we're going to hear from Peter King first. So Peter King, of course, had some comments. This was over the weekend, I believe.
This was December 30th edition of Pro Football Talk Live, which you have to go to Peacock to see the full episode or you need to go find the different segments on Pro Football Talk. So this was specifically the clip that we're going to play is Peter King in a discussion with what's old douchebag's name? Mike
Sims?
Florio.
Oh, Florio.
Mike Florio. Yeah. Chris Sims, young douchebag.
Okay. So my apologies.
Yes. Yeah, get your ages right. Listen, but they're talking about Tom Brady. And they were specifically in the moment talking about Tom Brady and Sean Payton being possibly a package deal. The problem with that is that there's not a lot of supply and demand. There's only so many quarterback spots and only so many teams that aren't going to get a quarterback in the draft, or that is their plan. So they were talking about supply and demand. So this is where Peter King brings up the Titans as a possible interesting choice.
There aren't enough jobs for the number of quarterbacks and or the number of agents of quarterbacks who believe that their guys are going to have a really good landing spot. Like, for instance, let's take Tennessee. What are the Titans going to do? The Titans have a lot of questions going into the offseason. A lot. They're not in great cap shape. Whoever goes there, if they do end up replacing Ryan Tannehill, my guess is they probably want to, but I also think that's going to be a financial decision. But so if you keep Ryan Tannehill and you're the Tennessee Titans, so don't you want to backstop him right now if you're Mike Vrabel with somebody better than Malik Willis? So those are the kind of questions that we just don't know now. Because, Mike, you raised the issue at the top. For Mike Vrabel to have bypassed Malik Willis to play in this game and perhaps to play next week, for a guy who's been on this team for 15 minutes, it says something resoundingly beyond today. And they can say whatever they want. I have no idea what they said last night or the other day about it, but they can say whatever they want. But the fact is, if you've got a quarterback who has been playing and who's been in the system all year, and you leapfrog somebody over him who, every team in the NFL had a chance to employ on the active roster and didn't, you then have to ask yourself the question, what is Malik Willis's role there for the future? So that's 1 out of 32. And obviously there aren't 32 places that have quarterback questions, but I bet you could think of a good 10 or 12 that have legitimate quarterback questions.
So Peter King there with Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk. Credit to those guys. And there is a little bit more speculation on his part in this, but he's also using what seems like some inside information as well.
That's where I'm at, because people are like, well, he says he guesses, so that means that he can't be right. And apparently Peter King has some bad track record of Titans information, which is something this is new to me. I know that Pro Football Talk has not had a good track record with Titans information, but Peter King is one of the most well-respected people in the planet.
And just an insider note, when you hear a radio host or a talk show host say, like, I'm feeling this, or I'm guessing that, or this could be, keep an eye on this.
PK is a good example. He does that all the time, not to throw his bag of tricks out there for the world to see. But when he's saying something and it turns out to be like he's like, I'm guessing, like you're saying, that means he's heard it from somewhere. He did not come. Right. Peter King heard this from somewhere.
Stephen Godfrey, a good friend of the show, always says, I think, I feel, I know.
Yeah.
And there's things we think, there's things we feel, and there's things we know. And I said, like, for example, when I said 4 weeks, I feel pretty confident that Lane Kiffin's going to go back to Ole Miss and Hugh Freeze is going to be the guy. That was right in the middle of all the Lane Kiffin agent pushing all the information that he's going to go to Auburn. There's sometimes things when you hear somebody say that, a lot of times it is informed by something, a nugget, a kernel, some piece of truth. So before we get into what that means and how you react to that, I do want you to, because we've done it before, and I know, don't get mad at me. I want you to do it again. But lay out quickly, concisely, what the financial ramifications are that he's referring to when it comes to Ryan Tannehill, his cap hit, the cut, the dead money, real fast for everybody.
It's the dead cap money that everybody's talking about. It's over like $20 million, which if you do it before June 1st, it's all $20 million dead cap is sitting on your books for 2023. And if you do it after June 1st, it gets split up between two. Here's the thing. If he gets cut or traded for before June 1st, you're still, despite the dead cap money amount, which is large, which I actually think it's only 18 million.
I've got 18.8 or whatever.
Sorry, I was thinking of the 20 million is his cap savings if you cut him after the June 1st. So you're right. But you save 17.8. So you're still in the green. You're not in the red. And if for whatever reason, people are really caught up on dead cap this offseason, and I don't understand why, because what you got to look at when you cut someone is, there's going to be dead cap in the books, but you're saving money already.
Yeah.
So it's like that really doesn't, it's almost, it looks like it's a break even, but really you're still 17.8 to the good.
Right.
So you're getting that full 17.8 amount back towards the cap.
Now, the question is, because I think of all the people I've talked to about this, I feel like you're pretty pro figure out a way to have Tannehill back again.
Yeah.
Right?
I guess here's the thing, and maybe it's a little bit of recency bias on what Tom Brady did on Sunday. But I think there are avenues to where you can improve the quarterback room outside of Ryan Tannehill. Like there's avenues to where I'm okay with moving on from Ryan Tannehill. It's not just clear, cut, and dry that I'm okay with Ryan Tannehill. If you can get a bunch of draft picks, which you could, this idea that Ryan Tannehill cannot be traded
I think
is a farce and a fallacy that people have created because they think that Ryan Tannehill sucks, even though he's still, his whole career is a top 5 quarterback. I posted the stats on efficiency stats. He's still a top 5 quarterback, and he probably top 4 if you could take Drew Brees out of there.
Crazy.
That's per efficiency stats. Right. Here's the thing is that this team can get by with a lot this offseason in terms of the quarterback position, because I think there is an avenue where this was specifically brought up in the Tom Brady segment, but PFT also has an article where they talk about Derek Carr. Now, listen, I'm not a Derek Carr guy. And if you want to guarantee you get Derek Carr, you have to trade for him. And the math,
you don't think they'll cut him and just walk away from the money?
Well, they have 3 days after the Super Bowl to trade him, or they have to cut him.
Yeah, because then
technically they only have 2. They are wanting to trade him, obviously. Now, whether another team wants to trade for him is totally different. Then you got the whole Lamar Jackson situation out there right now, where Lamar Jackson is supposedly, according to his own head coach, alluded to sitting out and making a business decision.
That thing gets weirder and weirder every
day.
But
here's the thing about signing Lamar Jackson. If you want to sign Lamar Jackson, you're signing a player that has a season ended by 2 injuries now, back-to-back seasons. You're having a quarterback that you're going to have to sign for a fully guaranteed contract, more than likely, for 6 to 7, maybe even longer years.
Pretty big number.
And those cap hits per year are ranging anywhere from 39 mil the first year you sign them, all the way up to 51 mil at some point. Okay. So you're talking about massive cap hits for the rest of the duration of his contract that you're not going to be able to get out of.
So, to me, the calculus has gotten pretty simple, because I think what Peter King does allude to in that cut, and what you and I have talked about with Josh Dobbs clearly being better than Malik Willis, is that the best chance this team has to win is with Ryan Tannehill in a restructured deal. His cap hit is 36.6 next year.
Which is easily, and that's why someone would trade for him, because all they have to do is trade for him and give him a little bit of extension and buy them some leeway. Right. That's why the Jets would trade for him.
But I think while I agree with you that there are some avenues to replace Tannehill and maybe still compete for a division, let's say, like stay competitive in some way, shape, or form, Tannehill, to me, do I think Derek Carr is a technically better quarterback than Ryan Tannehill? Maybe. but like he's not a clear upgrade. He's going to cost you a lot, and why not stick with the devil with Ryan Tannehill, who's been in the system and knows all the players and knows Vrabel and knows the culture and knows the area.
And Derek Carr is younger, right? So
Sure.
Derek Carr is younger, so the more than likely he will cost more because you're going to have to get to a bidding war for Derek Carr.
Well, any of these guys, Jimmy Garoppolo, so
I think Tom Brady's the only person you really don't have to get in the bidding war with because he's just going to say where he wants to go.
Well, that's true. Yeah, and if he doesn't want to go here, then you're shit out of luck. So the numbers and the facts of this whole situation have led me to be more Tannehill returning than I think I ever was. Some of that is Dobbs.
I'll say this.
Clearly putting Malik Willis in perspective.
Here's what I think about this comment of guess. There's only one person, head honcho, that's running the show for the Tennessee Titans right now. So someone in Vrabel's camp, whether it's Vrabel or not, because the people who think that Peter King isn't good with the Tennessee Titans, maybe he's being fed information from Vrabel this whole time, and John Robinson does something completely different. That's why John Robinson is fired. But there's a good chance that this guess is coming from at least one source really close to Vrabel, whether that's Vrabel himself or someone or Stretch or someone on the staff or something, that they may be ready to move on from both Tannehill and move on from Malik Willis. And I think they talked at the top of this show, the segment, talking about, we talked about too, Malik Willis is pretty much done. We don't think the staff wanted Malik Willis. I don't think the staff really believes in Malik Willis. They
happened pretty fast.
Probably think he's a nice guy, but it has to.
No, I know.
Because here's the thing, and fans need to wrap their head around this. The Tennessee Titans took $3 to a gas station, bought a lottery ticket, and then they went home, and a few days later, the numbers were called, and they didn't win. Fans are viewing this as, well, they need to play a game of fucking Monopoly, and they need to spend 5 or 10 hours playing this game until they figure out who wins, while three-fourths of the people that are playing with you are losing the game. And they just wasted 10 years. The NFL does not play Monopoly. If you're a first-round pick, they play the lottery.
Right.
If you're a first-round pick, you get some Monopoly time. Maybe it's a little bit more life or rook, but it is not. It is not Monopoly.
No, I think the analogy is accurate. I do think because you don't have a general manager in place, and we did talk about this earlier, I could argue that the strategy is not necessarily to like buy into Malik Willis necessarily as the future, but it's to use him to get you to the next guy. And if that means you suck and you get the 3rd pick overall for 1 year,
Vrabel doesn't. Not. It's not in his DNA to do that.
I agree with you on that.
I get the strategy and I get the talking point, but at some point we just also have to realize that because you're not the only one talking about it, but there's these people who are still clinging to this hope that maybe they'll just tank for Caleb Williams. It ain't happening.
Yeah,
unless a bunch of injuries happen again, they ain't tanking.
Well, to me, and I agree with you. If that's the case, then Tannehill's the best option.
I think that Tom Brady's the best option.
Oh, okay.
And I think that
one game against Carolina.
Well,
okay.
he's doing really well with about a similar offensive line that Tom Brady or that Ryan Tannehill has. Now, the difference would be you're swapping your great wide receivers for Derrick Henry and some good stuff. But if you're wanting to probably get the most out of Derrick Henry, and Mike Vrabel needs to bring in someone that is the opposite of Malik Willis and maybe even more the opposite of Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
There's no better quarterback than Tom Brady. And listen,
they're best buds. And
when Tom Brady was going through this whole free agency thing last time, my stance was that he's not choosing Tennessee because he's going down to Tampa Bay. He's going where the defense is at. He's going where the 2 young wide receivers are at, and he's going to go where Bruce Arians is at. A couple of years later, Bruce Arians is gone.
Oakland. Why wouldn't Vegas with all the weapons?
Get there.
Okay, sorry.
Bruce Arians is gone. He's gone through this whole thing with, Byron Leftwich, and then, this whole thing with, Todd Bowles, just not working. Now he can come to maybe Tennessee where Mike Vrabel is at, where an elite defense is at, where you have a running back that is elite, that's going to get you the first downs and take a little bit pressure off your body.
Better shape than Leonard Fournette.
Yep. Las Vegas is the only other option in my mind for Tom Brady, unless San Francisco just goes crazy and tries to go get him. I think it's Las Vegas, Tennessee, and San Francisco.
It could be. And you know what? This is one of those things where I'm guessing.
Yeah.
that McDaniels wants Garoppolo and that Brady and McDaniels aren't all that.
I wouldn't be
simpatico.
surprised. I wouldn't be that surprised
So
if that was the case. But if you're
that means Tennessee's got a chance then.
Yeah,
So.
I think that Tennessee has a really strong chance. Tom Brady is a legit free agent, so he's going to dictate where he wants to go. And that's no one else but him is going to dictate where he wants to go. And if you see that Ryan Tannehill is traded, you're probably going to see that Tom Brady signed a few minutes later.
I think that. Okay, all right. You heard it here first, folks. And I think you make a pretty good case, as you do all the time. Pharmacy, of course, makes a great case for your business at lunch. By the way, congratulations are in order because this football show, we got started back right around the draft time in April and May. We haven't even been doing this a full year. Super proud to have Kingston Group on with us and the Pharmacy on with us here. We started a fantasy football league of which I finished last. I'm a man. I can admit at 40 years old that I finished last. And I'm not even gonna say that we won 4 out of 5 at the end of the season. I'm not even gonna say that to you guys, that we surged late in the year. And we finished last. Zach finished second in the standings, but had the highest scoring team the entire season. But congratulations to our main man, Dan Scroggins. Got the victory, got the W. Congratulations to him for the win in our first ever football show Pharmacy Fantasy League, which we drafted here. If you have your draft next year, great place to have the draft. You come here, you get some beers and some brats, and you talk a bunch of shit, and you have a great time. We had a great time at the draft, and so congratulations to Dan on winning. I will say though, when you pull up the matchups, and Zach's in the third place game, and Zach scores 165 points,
which I've been doing like almost pretty.
You're the highest scoring team in the league. Highest scoring team.
Just that 1 week. 165
points. I'm just making sure here, double checking. 165.5 points in your final week, finishing third place. Congratulations, by the way. How do you feel?
I could have done better.
Yep.
If it ain't first or last.
Championship round. Dan beat Dan, by the way, 2 Dans in the championship round. 88.46 to 77.5. I think you actually scored more points than the two of them combined.
Yeah.
In your third place game.
Here's the
How
thing.
do you feel about that?
Okay, so let's talk about this real quick.
Okay.
This is a case that the Tennessee Titans should try to make the playoffs because this is like if the Tennessee Titans play the Seattle Seahawks it was the 3 and the 5 seed. Yeah. This is like the Tennessee Titans and the Seattle Seahawks this year playing in the Super Bowl because Geno Smith's obviously going down at the worst time, and this is what it would be like. And then basically, I am the Kansas City Chiefs or Buffalo Bills or Philadelphia Eagles on the outside looking in.
You're the Bills of last year.
I am the elite team that is not able to make it to the Super Bowl. So now this is your perfect case of why the Tennessee Titans should make it in because anybody can win once they're in the playoffs.
That is exactly true. See, look at that. Bringing it all back to the Tennessee Titans. Now, I will say
I'm a professional.
We had a bet here, though, at our draft night after a few beverages were consumed. Yeah. We had a bet about, I have no idea why this happened, who would be the highest scoring fantasy receiver for the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, Dobbs got injured and was gone for a long time.
He took Romeo Dobbs. I had Alan Lazard, and a gentleman sitting not too far from us here, a little off screen right back here, had Sammy Watkins. I finished last place, but I won the bottle of bourbon. Yeah. So there's that. This is why you come out to Pharmacy. You have your fantasy draft.
Sammy Watkins didn't even make it on the team all year.
He got cut. Talk about walking out of a stadium. I walked out of the Titans-Packers game. 4-8 Packers, 7-3 Titans. I have never seen anything like what has happened to those two franchises since walking out of that stadium. Just thinking, look how complete this football team is. The Titans have found a passing game. They're running the ball. The Packers are atrocious. They can't accomplish anything. And literally not one of those Packers have not lost since then, and the Titans have not won since then.
Gotta be worried of the outliers.
So bizarre. Yeah. Such a bizarre night. But I wanted to say congratulations to Dan, and thanks to everybody for hanging out and participating in the Fantasy League. So check out the Pharmacy, of course, in East Nashville, and the Kingston Group, buildkg.com. Maybe I could use them to build my roster next year.
There you go.
And not finish last place. All right, that brings us to some college football here.
I think it helped that I drafted both Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen when I was laughed at.
You took them all. You took all
laughed at.
There were some chuckles at 2 quarterbacks that early.
Yeah,
one
quarterback worked
system.
out, didn't it? Well, sort of
worked out for third place.
Sort of.
All right, so real quick, I don't know how your New Year's Eve was. Hope it was great. Hope everybody's New Year's Eve was awesome and wonderful. Speaking of Tom Brady, this happened at the New Year's Eve party. We had 10 adults and like 10 children. And we started at about 3, so pretty early on with the start of the Michigan game. So much good football. I said to somebody, at about 8 p.m., I think you could beat Tom Brady in a race. This was all the men, of course. None of the women were stupid enough to get involved in this nonsense. But all the men are like, I was like, I think you could beat Tom Brady in a race. I think you could beat Tom Brady in a race. Not more athleticism, not better at football, none of that garbage. I'm just saying straight 40-yard dash. Do you think you could beat Tom Brady in a race? And two guys were like, yeah. So, of course, this devolves into us racing after 6 hours of drinking. And I am standing with an ace wrap around my hamstring right now. So the party was great. The kids were awesome. The football games were spectacular. I have not been able to walk straight since New Year's Eve. I hope you had a great New Year's Eve.
Yeah, we just went out to eat.
Could you beat Tom Brady in a race? Straight line.
I don't know. I'm a very inflexible person, so that means that I'm basically running in cement because my body's in like constant stiffness.
I think if I had some time to train,
I would have to have time
weight,
to train,
stretch a lot.
But he's going to be doing the same thing, and he's already got the leg up on you in terms of health.
Whatever, I could beat Tom Brady in a race.
Yeah,
obviously.
I think that if you're going to do it, you can't give him time to prepare because unlike the quarterbacks and some of these 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. guys for the Tennessee Titans, he actually has a competitive mentality.
Either way, best Saturday of college football, playoff football, best semifinals ever. I don't know if it's maybe Georgia-Ohio State was the best game probably ever. I think the Alabama-Ohio State game in 2014. I think the Rose Bowl, which was Georgia and Oklahoma in overtime, would be in that list. But Michigan, TCU, and listen, Georgia, you can't kill them. You can't kill Stetson Bennett. That's a B- game. TCU is the most unprecedented story in college football. Like there's nothing – I can't come up with anything that is even close to comparable to what TCU is doing, which is they were picked preseason number 7 in the Big 12. They don't recruit in the top 20. They have a first-year coach. Max Duggan, their quarterback, wasn't even the starter in week 1. Like, there is no comp to what TCU has accomplished, and they deserve a ton of credit. I don't know if that helps them on Monday night. That's a scary thought.
Yeah.
But half the people at my party on Saturday were thinking, man, I can't believe Ohio State's going to back their way into a national championship.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Stetson Bennett survives. The mailman delivers in the fourth quarter.
Well, I'll say this about this college football playoffs is that I think that for all the offseason, for all the regular season talk of the college football expansions that I've done, where I've said that the expansions aren't going to be worth a shit, it's going to be the same 4 teams. This was the best case scenario, I feel like, to showcase that, hey, these expansions may actually provide some upsets and some good Final Four teams in games.
It's funny you could argue it both ways. Like, I think your point is right that if you had more of those TCU Michigan type matchups, you're going to see more drama and more chaos. And I think that's a great argument for teams like 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to pull upsets on teams 4, 5, 6, and 7 or whatever. I also think that if TCU finished 6th, let's say, in a real play, in like a 12-team playoff, that having to go through multiple layers of Michigans, does that make sense?
Yeah.
You'd have to beat Michigan and then Ohio State and then Alabama or whatever.
But then you're still going to have like a team like Tennessee who probably, even with Joe Milton,
probably could pull an upset.
Sure.
I just think it's going to be harder for a team like TCU to get to the national championship game.
I think that's why it's important that they have to get like the number 4 seed still. Like a team like that would still have to get the number 4 seed.
But even then, they'd have to play number 5 and then the semifinal and then a championship game. They basically have to win one extra game.
Yeah.
And it's hard enough for TCU to get where they are now. I do think it's an interesting debate because I don't think there's a right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
It's sort of like,
well, for me, it just definitely
opened
my eyes to. It's kind of like Josh Dobbs opened my eyes to maybe that Malik Willis just sucks.
Like Penn State, like Penn State, Tulane would have been in the playoff. Penn State would have been in the playoff. USC would have been in the playoff. Utah would have been in the like. All these teams could have had an opportunity to pull upsets in the first round, second round, or whatever. Yeah. And I think there are going to be more of them. And watching TCU basically just take every punch from Michigan and get back up off the mat and keep scoring.
And Michigan just giving the ball away.
Making mistakes. And so, I mean, it's Stetson. We can get to Stetson Bennett here in a second. But the Michigan TCU game, it was 21-16 with 6 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Yeah.
They scored 97 points.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And I thought that the Ohio State essentially played for everything they could. They did. Yeah. I thought they did everything that they could to win, and I thought that Ryan Day definitely saved his job. for sure.
Even in defeat, I agree with you.
Yeah, and I also think that because everybody was expecting the blowout, right? I mean, that's what you were. I mean, apparently Vegas wasn't.
I was laying 6.5. So.
Yeah, but apparently Vegas wasn't. It kept going down. I'm like, what do they know? What does Vegas know? And I still don't know what they know. I still don't really know what happened out. It's insane. It's insane what CJ Stroud was able to do in that one game. And now, all of a sudden, every Titans fan wants C.J. Stroud because they're going to ignore all the games he's played horribly because they saw the one nationally televised game against the Georgia team.
And look, pretty awesome though.
Yeah, that's what everybody says about every Ohio State quarterback. I'll wait to see.
I agree with you on that one, but he is probably the best one.
I think that's the one thing that you can helmet scout in the NFL and be 100% right on every time is that Ohio State quarterbacks are not going to be very good. And Justin Fields. Well, for all that he does in running, they're barely over like 2,600 passing yards. Spare me that this Justin Fields.
I will say that every quarterback before, this is the one thing Ryan Day can argue.
Yeah.
Ryan Day revolutionized their passing attack at Ohio State. I think you're right. They played their best game, their A-plus game, and they did it without their number one receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba. They did it without their number one running back in Henderson. I know they lost Harrison in the fourth quarter, but they still were playing really well the entire game. Good game plan. Ryan Day answered a lot of questions. I do think since Ryan Day, the quarterback quality has changed. The passing attack has changed at Ohio State. So I say that to say anybody Urban Meyer and before was not capable of playing in the NFL because it was a different offense. Ryan Day since, they're far more like it's a more offensive NFL system, and quarterbacks who fit into that system are a little bit more NFL applicable, if that makes sense.
I guess we just have to wait to see if actually one of them actually turns out that way. Because so far nobody's turned out to be a quality passer out of Ryan Day's offense.
He's only been there there's his fourth year, so his fourth year. But Stetson Bennett, who will not be playing in the NFL at all, he has no upside. He'll be an accountant here in a couple of months. The
AJ McCarron of Georgia.
Yeah. So here's what's interesting about AJ McCarron and Stetson Bennett comparison. I think from an overall talent perspective and the situations they were playing in, pretty similar.
Yeah.
But McCarron's story and Bennett's story are very different. And what I mean by that is AJ McCarron was a top 100 recruit, 4-star, high 4-star, came in, big, tall, pocket passer playing in the old school Nick Saban pocket passing offense, back-to-back championships on an elite team. Stetson Bennett is a guy, like, again, all the stories and eyes start to roll when you recap the story, but to be a walk-on, to be kicked, basically told to leave, go to junior college, come back, and then basically told you're not good enough, to win the job against Arkansas last year and then be benched for JT Daniels, and then the whole time he's just better than everybody in practice, and then he wins the national championship and then comes back, and if they win on Monday night, I think it is a far more – like, TCU's a remarkable story to go from like preseason 7th or whatever to Bennett's story is unprecedented. Like Tommy Frazier, 3 national championships, elite recruit, one of the best players of all time. Even McCarron, big time top 100 recruit playing at Bama, pretty good player, 3rd in the Heisman, kind of like Bennett was, which is, again, to your comparison. I just don't think there's a career in college football if they finish the deal, because there's only 3 guys I think that have double national championships. Matt Leinert's the other one. He would be one of 4 players ever with 2 national championship rings as a quarterback, and none of them are walk-ons. None of them were kicked off the team, not literally, but like told to leave multiple times. His own fan base didn't want him last year. There's nothing like Stetson Bennett, and all he did was go 10 of 12 for 190 yards and 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter against Ohio State. Back-to-back touchdown drives against Bama in the national title game, and he can run, and he's an athlete. I think we need some time away from the Stetson Bennett story to fully appreciate what the Stetson Bennett story really is.
You love Stetson Bennett. And I
don't love him.
My God. That's all you've talked about since we've started this fucking show is Stetson Bennett. All you talked about. So I don't want to hear. I don't want to hear that you don't love him.
He's going to win a second ring.
I don't either. Well, we don't know yet.
I like stories.
You think he's going to win a second ring until the ginger rifle comes through there and just destroys them. Stetson Bennett's a lot better than what I want to give him credit for, just because I am an Alabama fan. I don't want to give him credit. I mean, he's a tad bit better than Jake Fromm, a little bit better than AJ McCarron, but I mean, he's still just another guy that won't make it to the NFL. But hey, kudos to him. Good college career. He'll be signing a bunch of footballs for the rest of his life when he's talking to youths at the elementary schools and stuff
He's
like
never
that.
going to pay for a drink the rest of his life. All right, so you really don't appreciate the journey then. So this is
I am the wrong person.
All right,
Because
so
I
you're
am the
doing
least sentimental person.
Oh, you're doing the exact thing that I think everyone's doing right now with him, because it's like everyone rolls their eyes at him.
Yeah.
And I think if they win a national championship on Monday night and he has 2 rings and he's off doing whatever it is he's going to be doing, like
Bass fishing,
like spreadsheets and like whatever, like probably just like you said, probably just doing appearances in Athens for the rest of his life.
He'll be running that dot matrix printer to sell you a car later.
He's going to make a fortune doing nothing is what he's going to do.
Yeah.
He's going to be wealthy and never work a day in his life. I just think when we get further, and we had Seth Emerson on Lamestream Sports last week to talk about this, who covers Georgia, his suggestion is we need to be farther away from the story to truly appreciate how unusual it is. And I'm just trying, sort of like with TCU being this kind of unprecedented, unusual story. I'm just trying to find because
I think it is an unusual story.
Georgia's boring.
Yeah.
Like they're a great defense and they're winning back-to-back championships. They're kind of already boring.
Yeah.
And so to have this unusual thing in the middle of it as the trigger man, I find that to be interesting, fun. I mean,
I think it would have been a lot more interesting if he had a sex party like Butte or Booty, whatever.
Keyshawn?
Yeah,
He
Keyshawn.
has sex parties?
Yeah.
All
Oh,
right.
you didn't see those rumors swirling?
I mean, I've been to New Orleans. It's wonderful. All right. So don't hate on Stetson Bennett, folks. I don't even know what that joke meant, but all right. Stetson Bennett, unusual, spectacular, extraordinary, appreciative. And, oh, by the way, to all you SEC fans, I'm rooting 1,000,000% for TCU.
Oh, I am too.
As hard as possible for TCU.
Yeah. Because,
again, the story will be unusual and unprecedented if TCU somehow manages to pull an upset.
But also fuck Georgia.
Sure. That's fair. All right, what are we going next here? We're going Tennessee and Alabama?
Yeah.
All right. So
dominate. And I'm so happy that Alabama dominated because you told me on Thursday's show or Friday's show that they wouldn't care and they're just going to go in there, and I'm picking Kansas State because my name's Braden. I got to be contrarian. Well, let me tell you something. Alabama went in there and whooped that ass. Bryce Young put on what was it, like 30% of his throws were for touchdowns.
321 and 5.
Yeah, give me a break. Bryce Young is the best college player in the country.
I don't disagree with that.
Bryce Young should be the number 1 overall pick. But I hope that, the Texans overthink it like they are prone to do, and they take like Jalen Carter or they take, C.J. Stroud or Will Levis.
Will Levis and Anthony Richardson would be overthinking it.
Yeah. Well, I think C.J. Stroud would be overthinking it because Bryce Young is clearly the best quarterback. And if you want the best quarterback, go ahead and get him. Unless the plan is to take Jalen Carter plus a wide receiver. And then, okay, we're still going to suck this year, but we're getting Caleb Williams.
Drake May or Caleb Williams.
Yeah.
No, listen, Bryce Young was extraordinary. The fact that he played, I think, still is incredibly risky. But I agree with everything you're saying. Alabama showed up. Bryce Young was spectacular. He capped a brilliant career. I had him on my Heisman ballot in my top 3. So if you didn't have him on your ballot, I think that's wrong. I think he's even in the game against Tennessee, against Hendon Hooker, he was the better quarterback in that game. Congrats. I don't think, Alabama fans don't really care that much about winning the Sugar Bowl, but whatever, fine. Bryce Young was awesome. I think here's the thing. Tennessee fans, though, were like walking in to the New Year's Eve party. Hey, man, what'd you think about Joe Milton?
Oh, the Joe Milton hype train went off the rails.
And I'm like, okay, he made 2 nice throws in the back of the end zone. Fine. Okay, fine. Those were nice throws. Let's say it. Here's my advice about Joe Milton. Do not change your opinion about Joe Milton because of what you saw against Clemson in the Orange Bowl.
Do not change your opinion about C.J. Stroud because of what you saw against Georgia.
That's a real football game, though. So that's different. This is a charity exhibition event that was fun to watch and enjoy. And my daughter had a great time on Saturday morning when she woke up and wanted to know what happened. And we watched the 4th quarter. She had a great time. But
I hate Dabo so much.
So that part you liked, right?
Oh, I loved it. I love the whole thing. I love it. I'm not ready to call Joe Milton like, oh, they're not going to miss a beat, and Joe Milton, blah, 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 blah.
No, that's the thing. Like, I thought Joe Milton could win this team 8 games next year before the game. I think Joe Milton can win this team 8 games after the game.
Yeah.
What I saw was positive, but doesn't mean anything in the future. It does not mean anything for next season. What matters with Tennessee football is the defensive depth chart.
Yes.
That's what's going to help them win more than 8 games next year. So just spare me the overreactions to what you see in a bowl game. We're about to get to the only thing you need to know about bowl games and the records in just a second, because Big Ten fans they got their chest puffed out a little bit. They're tweeting a lot about their records and all this stuff, and that's fine. Celebrate, do the victors, go the spoils. But Joe Milton, nice performance. Tennessee, nice performance. 11-win season, great year, unbelievable memories from Hendon Hooker. All that stuff is true. It does not mean that they are going to win more games next year because he played well in the Orange Bowl against Clemson.
For all the good that Joe Milton did on the field, all anybody could talk about was how Hendon Hooker was on the sidelines and how Hendon Hooker was up on the podium and how Hendon Hooker was, farting over near the water cooler.
Hey, best smelling farts you've ever heard, man.
But that's all anybody wanted to talk about was what Hendon Hooker was doing. And you might as well have had he was the J.J. Watt of this game. You know how the camera always finds J.J. Watt? The camera always finds Hendon Hooker, and that's really what all fans want to talk about. And let me say this about Hendon Hooker. If you're looking for a Malik Willis type flyer, Hendon Hooker's your guy. Draft him in the 3rd or 4th round. He'll be such a great leader and such a nice guy that will never amount to anything in the NFL, unfortunately.
I don't like saying that to Tennessee fans, but I've said it for a year and a half now. I don't think he's an NFL player. But it doesn't change doesn't change the memories.
Doesn't change the fact I think Hendon Hooker, from the outside looking in, I think is my favorite player.
He is. So part of the reason the camera finds him is he writes the Players Tribune article. He goes out and speaks to he's written children's books. Like, this is a guy that you can love.
Yeah.
You want your children to love. And oh, by the way, he did something for Tennessee football that no one's done maybe ever for them in the last 2 years. So I think it's okay to just be obsessed and over the moon in love with Hendon Hooker and wish that he'd played. But you know what? They won 2 games.
Don't blame the NFL teams that draft him or that pass over him when he doesn't turn out to be anything great.
I get you there. I agree with that. Oh. So, what happened to our look?
I don't know.
There we go.
Vols accidentally hit it.
Okay, so you were very excited about Hendon Hooker as
I guess so.
as the Tennessee fan that you are. All right, we'll wrap up here with one stat that you need to know, one record you need to know. When all your Big Ten buddies throw all these bowl records in your face because I don't know.
I mean, the only thing that matters on these bowl record things that Ohio's, and you're going to lead into this, is what happens at the big game.
Yep. Does
your team make the big game?
So you don't define how good a conference is because they won the Tax Slayer Bowl.
Yeah.
Also, Sonny Dykes, head coach at TCU, who said, we don't get to schedule weak non-conference opponents in the middle of November. And I want to say, do you think the SEC has won like all of the championships and drafted all of the players into the NFL because they happen to play a non-conference game in November, when your league could do the same thing if they wanted to? No.
Well, they do. They schedule them against their in-conference opponents. The Big 12 is basically Louisiana Monroe.
Let's not go crazy, all right? But here is the ammunition you need. The only ammunition you need when somebody says, Big Ten 9-3 in bowl games, SEC 4-6 in bowl games. I don't even know what the numbers are, whatever they are. When somebody looks at you and says that, you say the Big Ten, who just went 0-2, the Big Ten is 2-6 in playoff semifinals. They've had 8 chances to get to the national championship game, and they have won 2 of them. 2-6. 2-6. The SEC is 10-1 in semifinal college football playoff games. The SEC's had 11 chances to get to the national championship game, and 10 times they've done it. Those are the only 2 stats you need. And when someone starts rattling off to you why Iowa beat Kentucky in the Music City Bowl and that how somehow indicates conference anything, you just say, what do you do when it matters? And the Big Ten is 2-6 in trying to get to the national championship game in the playoff. And the SEC is 10-1, and that only loss was the Ohio State-Alabama game in year number 1 of the playoff. So since the first year of the playoff, the SEC is 10-0 in college football semifinal games. I don't know what other information you need to know.
There is no other information other than being a Big Ten fan must be horrible because you know that your team's never going to win. While Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, Alabama, Georgia, now you could probably maybe start creeping in UT into there.
Not being able to beat TCU is a bad look.
Yeah.
TCU's a great team, but
I think
this was supposed to be your year, Michigan. This was supposed to be your year, and you had it, and you could not make plays.
Yeah.
So
and John Harbaugh's for the 30th time Jim Harbaugh for the 30th time has got rumors that he's going to bolt for the NFL.
Colts, baby.
It's an evergreen article that's being written every year after Michigan loses disgracefully in a bowl game. I am sick of it.
It's a good coach.
Copy paste. Oh,
you're sick of the rumor? Yeah. I hear you.
I'll believe it, like Ryan Tannehill in the playoffs. I'll believe it when I see it.
That is a great place to put a pin in it, of course. Thursday, back on a regular schedule, of course, at 1 p.m. We are, of course, here live at the pharmacy. Check out these beautiful vibes here. We've got the soda rail, the milkshake bar. You got the burgers, the beers, as Zach spills all over himself.
Because you see that. The definition is not that high.
Exciting about it. It's a great place to come bring the family. You can get out of here for like less than $50 with 2 kids, family of 4. Great place to come grab a burger, some brats, some tots, some fries. You got the kraut here, best kraut in the city, best mustard in the city. So come on out to the pharmacy, of course, as well. Make sure you check out the Kingston Group, our other great and awesome and amazing local sponsor. You're going to make some decisions about your house, if you're buying, if you're selling, if you're renovating, anything. You want to build a carport, you want to build a garage, a basement, doesn't matter. Talk to the Kingston Group. Just have a conversation that you don't even have to use them. They will still help you make the right decision for your house and with the right decision for your money. So make sure you support local business, the Kingston Group, and the pharmacy, of course. Where can people sign up for a tremendous digital media service covering the Tennessee Titans?
Well, let me say this. If you are watching live and you haven't left because we've gotten into our end of story spiel where we're talking about all of our great advertisers like the Pharmacy and Kingston Group, today we are testing out, me and Mike, our first insider-only live broadcast, kind of like what PK does over at paulkarski.com, PK TV.
So you're copying him.
Well, we're doing our own thing because our thing actually turns into a podcast. So whatever, if you basically come hang out with us, interact with us, it'll be better production. We'll have like little videos and we'll have this or that. And it's, obviously better looking hosts than what, over at pk.com.
Wow.
Come over to us at 3:45 p.m. is when it's going to happen. You need to turn on notifications for football and other F words, Broadway Sports Media, and at Broadway TN. That way you get the link to the article. That way you can sign in, get the link to be able to come in. But you also need to turn on notifications for 440 Sports and make sure that you're coming in and interacting on these shows. Because go to YouTube, go to Facebook, turn on the notification for 440 Sports and come in and interact on these shows. I know we didn't get to you today. We're doing a new setup, so my laptop's a little far. And I got to figure out how – I forgot to put it on Braden's computer so he could tell.
Zach's had a beer now at this point.
So I know we got a lot of comments. We had a lot of comments that we did not get
Hi,
to.
Tim. All your comments.
But we'll make sure that's fixed for next week when we're live.
Landon, and congrats to Dan, our fantasy football show champion. Brought to you by the pharmacy, East National, Broadway Sports Media, Zach Lyons, Braden Gall. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thursday show, 1 p.m. regular time, 2 p.m. Eastern time, 1 p.m. Central time, regular time. We're going to break down the entire Jacksonville Titans game. God bless our souls. For Zach, I am Braden. Thanks for hanging out with us. Pharmacy, everybody. This has been a football show.